Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 1 of the Airfix Hellcat Scale 1 to 24. If you haven't done so already, have a look at the introduction video of this kit. I'll explain what's in the box. But in part 1, I'll be building up the cockpit. The cockpit is quite a lot of work into it, so I don't know whether I'll be able to fit it all into one video. But let's find out, shall we? To start with, I've painted everything on the sprue here with F6F-5 Cockpit Green by Tamiya. And this is all the first parts of the cockpit component. And now I'm using Life Colours UA735 black and rubber shades for deep cockpit. And I'm using this colour to paint the various pipes that run around the cockpit. I'll actually be using quite a lot of colours, so I'll just pop up this picture here just to give you a snapshot of all the different colours I'll be using. Now I'm moving on to Tamiya's Withering Master Series E, and I'll be using the green component here to highlight the rivets along the panels. So I'm using my brush sharpener and just rubbing against the panels, and it just gives them a slightly different shade of green, a little bit darker, and it just brings up the highlight, the rivets. You have to practically build this cockpit right up from the bottom onwards. So at the moment here, what I'm doing is putting in the brace supports. There's about 7 in total you have to put in. Just be aware of the actual locations. They do sit in their own little channel running down this part here, but some of them face different ways. So you'll just have to be make sure that you get them in. As you can see there, that's all done. So next up, I'm starting on the control stick, and for the gator, it's Rebel Aquacolor 84 leather brown. This is a nice shade of brown to use. But now I'm going on to 09 Anthracite by Rebel Aquacolor, and this is for the grip at the top of the control stick. And for the trigger, it's Rebel Aquacolor 36 Carmine Red, and this is just a tiny little dot really. And then lastly, it's 91 Steel Rebel Aquacolor, and this is for the linking cable as well as the stem for the control stick. Now the instructions have painted the same colour as the cockpit, but it just looked wrong to me, so I thought about putting in a sort of metally colour just for it to stand out. Now there's various pipes and things like that you have to put in, and as I said before, these are all getting painted in the UA735 deep rubber by Life Colour. Now these paints are quite a thin paint, but the shades are very good for blacks. In fact, I really do enjoy them. So I'd say get a set of them because they're really good for tyres. Anything that's got rubber, really, they're very good for. So I'm just putting in the control stick into the base here. The fit was very good, and now I'll start building it into the floor. So the pipes that I just painted go in this little bracket. I'll have a look at how they run, because they'll be connected to a series of pipes throughout the cockpit, so you want to make sure they get in alignment. And then there goes the housing for the control stick. I know I've just started building it, but right from the start I've been impressed with the fit so far with this kit. The location points are dead on, everything is fitting snug, so let's hope this continues throughout the build. The link shaft fits on a little cradle right at the end of this part. It's a tiny part, you may miss where it fits. Just a little bit of glue to secure it. You may not need it. As I say, the fit is very tight. So then it's time to build up more structural parts to the floor, more support beams. As I said, you're practically building this thing up right from the ground floor up. So now I'm going on to the bulkhead. But first of all, there's a fire extinguisher to be painted, and I'm painting this in Rebel Aquacolor 36 Carmine Red. It's quite small, and there's a good chance that you won't see it once it's in the cockpit, but I think it'd be a shame to miss it out. It does look good once it's on there, but I think the chair does cover it up. You may only get to see glimpses of it. I'm using 09 anthracite here to paint all the little wheels and levers that are going on to this bulkhead. There's two at this stage to put on. So now it's time to build it. First of all, goes on the cover that covers up some of the pipework. It's on an angle, it's cut on an angle. Have a look at the instructions to make sure you're having the right way up. Next to go on is the headrest. Now, this is a bit strange. The headrest goes behind a little panel there and enables it to sit at an angle. You may find it a little bit confusing at first, but just dry fit it and you should be okay. Next to go on is the bracket that holds the seat belts, and that goes directly below the headrest. There's a couple of little location points there for it to be fitted in. It's a sort of sweeping part. It sort of dips down and comes back up to fit over the housing of the bulkhead. So again, make sure that you've got it in the correct position. So now it's time to put on some of the coverings and plates. This H plate just fits right over onto the supporting beams that you already placed on and around the control stick like so. Now it's time to put in the fire extinguisher. That sits on its own little cradle. You shouldn't have too much difficulties there. There's just two little location points for it. And then once that's in, it's time to put in all the well, there's only two, as I said, little levers and switches. Each one does have its own location point, nicely defined again, so you shouldn't have a problem understanding where they go. Even though this is a large kit, you will need a good pair of tweezers because some of the parts can be a bit small. This wheel, for instance, is tiny, but it does have a big stem, but it does sit flush into it. I don't know why it has a big stem. So now it's time to fit the floor to the bulkhead here. The location points and reset points are very well defined once more. There was no modification needed to fit them in. It just slotted in nicely. So now we're going on to the more pipes connecting to the bulkhead and the floor. These are a little bit more trickier to fit. They are getting painted once again in lens colour UA3735. That's the dark rubber for Cockpit. So there's basically 4 contact points here. The initial cradle is right underneath the fire extinguisher. I would suggest fitting that part first before applying your cement to the other for the leads going into the bulkhead, then onto the floor. A little manoeuvring will be required to get them in position, but as you see there, it can be a bit difficult. It stuck to my fingers a couple of times, not by cement, just by the pressure I was holding it onto. So far this is the most difficult unit to fit, but I thought I'd show you how I done it, even though I was having problems with it. But I did get there eventually. It's starting to go in now. So you just have to hold it and tease it a little bit until you find the location points. You may have to squeeze it down a little bit just to expand the tube to go into the location point. But just do one at a time. So once that's in, it's time to build up the control pedals, and it's a fairly simple construction. There's 2 sidewalls that go onto the pedal there, and then the actual pedals themselves are getting painted in Revel Aquacolor 91 steel, and it's just the pedals itself. The housing is going to be in the same cockpit colour, the XF71 green. So once it's all painted and dry, it fits onto this secondary bulkhead. Again, the location points are straightforward, and the sidewall brackets just fitting nice and snug. More often than not, when you to these kits. These side brackets, you have to modify them to get them fit. No, not those issues here. So it goes on the floor and connects opposite it. Now the instructions say use the fuselage as a guide to position the sidewall, the bulkheads. So make sure that it's not completely dry before you do this, obviously, and just line it up to the fuselage and hold it a couple of minutes or so until you're happy with the alignment. Obviously do not glue it to the fuselage at this point because there's still some more work to do. I'm starting on the central column for the instrument panel, and the predominant colours here are Rebel Aquacolor 05 white and Rebel Aquacolor 09 Anthracite black. Now the white in that is just for little switches and dials before I place on the decals. Now these decals are really small, and they're also white apart from these two I'm placing in now. These are little red warning light labels I'm putting on at the moment, but the other decals are actually white. And once you soften them up in your solution, whether it's water or whatever solution you use, it's very difficult to see them. There's a couple of little levers that have to go on as well, and these are painted in 91 steel Rebel Aquacolor. They're tiny, you may have difficulty putting them on, so a steady hand will be required for this. As I said, this part was quite difficult because of the size of it, but it is worth doing. It was time to fit it, and it rests on the foot pedals in front of the control stick. There's a little hinge there that just sits on top and a location point on the floor. Even though it's small, there's a quite nice detail work goes into this little bit. Well, as I'm putting on the finishing touches to this, I think I'll end the video here. As I said, I didn't think I would get it all into one video. So in part 2, I'll carry on with this cockpit. But in the meantime, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? Subscribe to that channel for all the upcoming updates for this builds and of course future builds. Hit that like button and of course leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.